Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. We have a new week, new opportunities, and new updates. So let's go ahead and get started with the latest. We're going to see what's going on with the Bitcoin, and we can see Bitcoin's Fear and Greed Index is now in fear territory. So we were in the extreme fear. We've now eased up just a little bit, sitting at 24, barely in the fear territory, but it's holding up pretty well. And over the weekend, let's go ahead and look at the price movement. So Bitcoin did do pretty good. We actually have 5 days of candle closure in a row that are all green. That's really nice. The volume over the weekend, not surprising. It's lower than what we would normally get on weekdays. That typically happens. What is really nice is that yesterday there was a close above a key Fibonacci level. So this is at $63,200. That is suggestive that we might see a further continuation up. It is not surprising with this being a weekday, Monday, and after 5 days in a row of being green that we see some selling pressure. In addition to that, we have some big news that came in regards. We'll talk about that in a minute. And as it is right now, yes, we are red on the day. Volume already more than what we saw for the entire day on Sunday and on Friday. We might see a push towards something similar to Thursday. And we have a low on the day at about $61,200. It's climbed up, sitting at about $62,500 on the day. It's down 1.74%. But as you guys can see, it looks like it's eating up that dip. And I think a lot of the selling pressure here is a combination, one, because it's expected with so many green days, and two, because of that bit of news. Again, I'll talk about that in just a moment here. The Bollinger Band itself converging a little bit, suggesting that maybe we'll start to see this consolidating, moving sideways a bit. But the price movement itself climbing up, looking really good. I would suspect that if after today we can manage to break above $63,200 again, we might see it sort of meander around here. We're sort of already seeing that on a wider space. So $59,300 on a low up to about $67,200. We might still see ranges bouncing around there. We do see a low at 57,850 unless something dramatic happens. I'm not necessarily personally leaning towards that direction. I'm not a financial advisor, not financial advice. But as it is, if it can break above that Fibonacci zone a second time and hold it for ideally 3 days, then we've got a strong trend, and the continuation formation is much more probable going up than it is to see it drop down. But as it is right now, it still looks like it might just kind of hover right around this key zone. So now let's go ahead and move on. This is the big news. Bitcoin fell below $62,000 after MicroStrategy announced it has sold $216 million worth of Bitcoin, quote, to fund dividends. Now, just to clarify, MicroStrategy had made an announcement pretty recently, or disclosed it, I would rather say, that they've been approved to sell some more Bitcoin, quite a bit. I believe it was around $1.2 billion. Don't quote me on that, but it was a significant amount. It's more than what we're talking about here of $216 million. So I think a lot of the fear that comes with people is that, hey, if they just sold $216 million now, does that mean that they're also going to be selling even more soon? Are they going to keep the price suppressed? Is that something that we might end up seeing? And, you know, it's a reasonable question to ask, especially when we take a look at the price chart. Again, I mentioned that we might see it sort of consolidating, going sideways a bit. If MicroStrategy keeps selling large amounts, that might very well be tied in with that, right? All right, so $216 million, it's pretty bad, but also keep in mind we're still sitting above $62,000 for Bitcoin right now. It's not like MicroStrategy completely controls the entire market here with that approval. Now to move on to other news, the Clarity Act. It's about 24 hours ago that this was mentioned. The Clarity Act was updated 4 days ago. The question is it coming? And you guys can see right here, updated June 1st, 2026. And let's go ahead and continue on. It's official. Ripple has received its EU CASP license. We are now fully MiCA compliant and ready to meet growing European crypto demand. This is huge news. It is getting a lot of attention. People are getting more and more bullish on Ripple, and that gives a lot more potential for XRP. Remember, Ripple is behind XRP, but Ripple is also behind RLUSD. XRP plays a pretty key factor, but having that stable coin is another element. And Ripple's also trying to be supportive in other ways, not just with XRP and Ripple, with RLUSD. But being MiCA compliant is really good. There's been a lot of issues going on with other crypto companies over in Europe, some new policy that was passed. So a lot of other companies are essentially currently not eligible to be doing work over in Europe. And seeing Ripple go through with this is just another stamp saying that they are trying to do legally what is required, and they're doing it ahead of the curve compared to a lot of other of these crypto companies too. Okay, Dark Defender, weekly time frame update. XRP is launching the Wave 5 without the Clarity Act. Correction is done weekly to double digit is expected next, not financial advice, just their thoughts only. And then as you guys can see with their Wave 5, they're illustrating this up to about $14, maybe $14.50. It doesn't show a definitive price, but it's just a little bit underneath $15 from their display. And the projection of this time frame would also put it still around July, maybe towards the end of July, closer to the beginning part of August, if that actually plays out that dramatically, which it potentially could. But you also notice that the line drawn up right here is starting technically a few days ago. That crossover event, the bottom, the point in which they're suggesting launch, this is after the ABC's already played out. So looking pretty good there. A threat is coming that could break almost every blockchain, quantum computing. While others debate it, Ripple already built a 4-phase roadmap to make the XRP ledger fully quantum resistant by 2028. Phase 2 is live now. So Ripple, again, trying to be ahead of the curve compared to the competition. And up next, Binance XRP scarcity hits 1-year high. The Binance XRP scarcity index has climbed to approximately 0.77 over the past 3 days. That marks its highest level since mid-2024, according to crypto quant analyst Arab Chain. XRP itself is trading right around $1.10. That was earlier. During this period, the rise suggests a growing gap between available supply and coin demand on the platform. Analysts say this could point to reduced selling pressure in the near term. Ethereum flows. A couple updates here. Solana and XRP spot ETFs saw net inflows last week, while Bitcoin and Ethereum spot ETFs saw net outflows. This is really consistent with XRP, seeing it actually be positive in comparison to these other ones. So Solana at $5.75 million, XRP at $17.19 million. And XRP spot ETF inflows stretched to 8 weeks. That's 8 weeks as institutional demand holds steady. XRP ETF's cumulative net inflows hit $1.49 billion. That's per Soso Value crypto data. And the steady inflows come even as XRP struggles against key resistance levels. There's a crypto exchange called BTCC. If you guys have not heard of this, I do have a referral link down in the description below. It's been around for over 13 years. You get access to over 300 crypto futures, up to 250x leverage. There's no VPN or KYC required to get started. And you can also get a 10% deposit bonus. That's if you make a deposit over $500 USDT. Bonuses can go all the way up to $10,055 per user. And again, my referral link is down below if you guys want to check that out. XRP dominance looks ready to break out. The chart is starting to forecast XRP taking market share back again. Right now, we're sitting around 3% dominance, but if XRP starts breaking out and pushing towards reclaiming around 10% or more, while the total crypto market expands towards $5 trillion to $10 trillion, everything changes fast. A 10% share of a $5 trillion market is a $500 billion XRP ecosystem. A 10% share of a $10 trillion market is a $1 trillion XRP ecosystem. That's where the conversation around $20 plus XRP start becoming very real very fast. And up next, XRP bullish probability, you're looking around 70 to 75%. That's from Bank XRP. And the XRP ledger is building the layer on-chain. Finance is missing. Credit. Ripple published the full framework for the XRPL lending protocol, letting banks and payment providers borrow against tokenized assets like treasuries and stablecoins without selling them. Underwriting stays with the institutions, while the ledger enforces repayment, interest, and default terms. Developers can test on DevNet now, with validator approval expected in the coming weeks. And taking a look at the XRP price movement. So what do we got going on here, guys? We've got some pretty good news, right? We've also got 5 days of candle closure, like Bitcoin in the green. Yesterday essentially went flat. Not much movement there. No surprise. We look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin had a little bit of a gain yesterday, but XRP just barely any movement. Essentially not much of anything there. And on the low for the day, it did drop down to about $1.11, currently sitting just under $1.13. It has reclaimed some of itself as well, and essentially is trying to follow the same pattern of what's going on with Bitcoin. Hopefully we'll see a little bit of divergence taking place there. We'll see it starting to deviate and going more in its own direction. History with XRP in the courts. There's already good news for XRP, so it can very well hold itself up. The only thing is the whole stigma. If people see Bitcoin's not really moving or some of these other cryptos, then by association, even with XRP having a better position, they might not still push it. But there's still hope. There's still hope regardless, and hopefully the Clarity Act does get itself pushed through very soon. And just keep an eye on this, guys. Bollinger Band pulling in a little bit. We're still sitting above the median line. Essentially got to bounce off of it for the day. Let's see if it can try and break above $1.18.5. That's what we saw back on Saturday. And we might have a little bit more room to push back up to $1.20, make a run up towards $1.40. I expect some pretty big resistance here at $1.30. And look at for support around $1. Okay, that's what I got for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you're new. And thank you to my Patreon supporters, as well as my YouTube members. God bless. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.